The vanity mirror in Alara's apartment didn't just reflect her face. It reflected a lifelong war. To the world and to her partner Julian, Alara was a masterpiece of curated grace. She was the woman who never had a hair out of place, whose laughter was pitched at the perfect frequency. Her past was a polished, redacted script. But every night, after Julian fell asleep, Alara retreated to the bathroom to perform the unmaking. She scrubbed until her skin was raw, staring at the jagged surgical scar on her hip, the uneven symmetry of her jaw, and the frantic, hollow look in her eyes whispered of 1,000 anxieties she refused to name. She hated the other Alara, the one who tripped over her words, the one who carried the physical and mental baggage of a chaotic upbringing. The twist began on a Tuesday. Alara looked into the mirror and realized her reflection wasn't following her movements. The reflection stayed still, its face twisted into a sneer of pure, unadulterated loathing. "You think Julian loves you?" The reflection hissed, its voice like glass grinding on stone. "He loves the mask. If he saw the jagged edges, he'd run." The mirror didn't just speak. It shattered, but the glass didn't fall to the floor. Instead, the shards hovered, spinning in a vortex before coalescing into a physical entity. A dark, viscous shadow that wore Alara's face, but exaggerated every flaw she had ever tried to hide. It was covered in her scars, vibrating with her nervous tics, and weeping with the tears she had suppressed for years. "I am the part of you that you tried to bury," the entity growled, lunging at her. It was a violent, surreal struggle. The apartment became a battlefield of psychological shadows. The entity dragged Alara through the empty and death of her own memories, showing her every failure, every moment she felt small, every physical imperfection she deemed hideous. It was a dramatic, visceral assault of self-hatred made flesh. Alara was pinned against the wall, the entity's cold hands around her throat. "Give up," it whispered. "You are broken." In that moment of near extinction, Alara stopped fighting. She looked into the entity's weeping eyes and saw not a monster, but a wounded child. She realized that by trying to kill her flaws, she was killing the only part of her that was actually real. "I'm sorry," Alara choked out. She didn't push the entity away. Instead, she reached out and pulled the jagged, scarred shadow into a crushing embrace. "I'm sorry I hated you. You're the reason I survived. You are me." The room erupted in a blinding white light. The love story with myself was no longer a metaphor. It was a literal molecular integration. The shadow didn't vanish, it merged. Alara felt a surge of heat as the jagged edges of her soul finally clicked into place. She wasn't perfect anymore. She was whole. The bathroom door burst open. Julian stood there, breathless and terrified by the sound of the glass shattering. Alara stood in the center of the ruins, her makeup smeared, her hair a wild nest, the scar on her hip visible through her torn robe. She looked twisted compared to her usual self, raw, messy, and vibrating with an intense, unfiltered energy. "Alara?" Julian whispered, stepping over the glass. "What happened? Are you okay?" Alara looked at him, and for the first time, she didn't try to fix her hair or hide her face. She stood in her own wreckage and smiled a wide, crooked, imperfect smile. "I'm more than okay, Julian," she said, her voice steady and resonant. "But the woman you thought you knew is gone. This is all of me. The scars, the mess, the anxiety. All of it. If you stay, you're staying for the truth." Julian looked at her, really looked at her, seeing the cracks and the flaws she had spent years camouflaging. The tension in the room held like a held breath until Julian finally crossed the distance. He didn't reach for her face to wipe away the mess. He took her hand and kissed the palm, leaning his forehead against hers. "Finally," he whispered, a tear of relief escaping his own eye. "I've been waiting for you to let me meet her. She's the one I actually fell in love with." The story ended not with a return to perfection, but with a happy couple standing amidst the shards of a broken mirror. They were no longer two people playing roles. They were two souls standing in the light of an honest sun. Elara had embraced her flaws, and in doing so, she had finally given Julian something worth holding on to. If you liked this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Bye, see you next time.